As we get older, we have less and less free time.
Ain't nobody got time, ain't nobody got time, ain't nobody got time for that.
What's up guys, it's Astro, your MMORPG crack fiend, and today I wanted to make a video for the casual player. We're going to talk about 3 great MMORPGs to play as a casual player. We're going to look at how the game respects your time, so when you're in the game, how much value do you get playing in that short amount of time? On top of that, if you were to take an extended break from the game, how behind do you feel? Also, are there any catch-up mechanics if you do fall behind? Also, how difficult is the game to pick up? Does it take hours and hours and hours to get the hang of it, or is it more plug and play? There's a lot to think about when talking about MMOs in general, and for the most part, you don't really talk about the casual experience for an MMO because usually you'd think it'd cater to the hardcore audience. I would argue that casual players are extremely important to MMORPGs because you can only have a handful of hardcore players that'll reach the end of the game, but your newer players will most likely all be casual players. So how do you cater to them? How do you keep them in the game? And how do you give them a good experience? Well, let's get right into the video and see how these MMORPGs did exactly that. In no particular order, let's start with number 1, Final Fantasy XIV. This is a game that has skyrocketed in popularity and everybody seems to be talking about it lately. Even I've sunk hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game and still feel like there's stuff I want to do rather than have to. It really comes down to how the game is designed. If you think about Final Fantasy as a series, they are a very great RPG series, and Final Fantasy XIV is no exception. When you get into the game, you'll realize how deep and rich the story is and how well they immerse you into this universe. Regardless of whether it's a main quest or a side quest, the game gives you so much detail and so much background that it's really interesting to go through. Another really great thing about the game is how well it respects your time. Like I said, most of the things in this game I want to do. I don't feel like I need to do anything in Final Fantasy. The game's head producer and director, Naoki Yoshida, even said that this game should be played when you want to, and if you feel like you have to play this game, you can put it down and come back to it later. Whenever I take a break from Final Fantasy, I can always jump right back in. I never feel like I'm behind, and if there is something I need to catch up on, they're very good at adding catch-up mechanics. Even though this game does have a vertical progression system, which means that every time they add an expansion, they add levels, they always add a way for new players to catch up. Whether it's with that sweet new player EXP or bonuses, they really do give the new players a great experience. The whole experience of going through Final Fantasy as a casual player is great because you go through the main story quest. It's not very difficult. It's a very great story. It can be done totally by yourself, and once you get to endgame, there's still things to do as a casual player. There's a lot of collecting you can do, whether it's with mounts, outfits, little minions. You can even do some of the dungeons and raids, but you don't have to do it at a hard difficulty. And if you don't want to play with other people, there's even a way to play the dungeons by yourself with NPCs instead. Not to mention the novice and mentor systems. Okay, before anyone says anything, I know some servers have an extremely memey mentor system, but overall I think it's a great system to help you learn the game, as it has players who are experienced teaching players who have just started. So if you ever do get stuck or you're trying to learn something about the class you're playing, there's people you can ask to help you out. Overall, I think Final Fantasy XIV is a great game to play as a casual player, especially right now because it's rising in popularity. So many people are playing, so if you want to ride that bandwagon, now's a great time to do so. Next up, we have what is the self-proclaimed casual MMORPG, Guild Wars 2. Just like Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2 has a great story for you to engage in, but the main way you level up in this game is through exploration. You can go out there and do activities to your heart's content, literally. While you're exploring in the game, you'll come across multiple tasks you can do, signified by this heart emblem called a renown heart. Every time you complete one of these hearts, you get a bunch of EXP, and that's the way you basically level up in the game. You go around different areas and you complete these hearts and you get EXP. There's also a main story quest called your personal quest that you want to do to get a bunch of EXP, as well as dungeons, which are a great source of EXP. Additionally, while you're leveling up, you'll realize that the combat is not complex and it's pretty easy to learn because there's not that many buttons. Usually when you play an MMORPG, there's like 5 gajillion buttons you have to learn and press. But in this game, you only have one bard to learn from. So there is a low skill floor entry. However, I believe that as you get farther and farther into the game, it can become more complex and intense. In terms of scaling, you will have to level in zones that are appropriate towards your level. However, if you decide to go into zones that are lower level, it will scale you down into those zones. Big thing to understand here is that you cannot scale upwards. So as a level 40, you're not going to be doing your best if you go to a level 80 zone. However, if you're a level 40 and you go to a level 2 zone, it's going to scale you down to level 2. Once you do hit max level, you'll be happy to know that unlike games like Final Fantasy XIV or World of Warcraft, this game expands horizontally instead of vertically. Basically, what that means is once you hit max level, you can do all the content in the game. Unlike Final Fantasy XIV and WoW, whenever they add a new expansion, you have to start leveling up and you have to catch up and do all this stuff. In Guild Wars 2, once you hit the max level, you can do everything. Even if they add a new expansion, you can do that first and then go to the old ones if you want. I think this is something really good for a casual player, because what that means is that you can play the game, hit max level, take a break, and when they do add a new expansion, you can come back and play it whenever you want. You don't have to catch up and you don't have to do all these things that waste your time.
You know, especially since they're adding a new expansion in February of 2022, maybe it's a good idea to take a look.
Until the release of the expansion, they're adding something called Living World chapters. Generally something you have to pay, but every week until the expansion comes out, they're giving out one for free to play through. To put a bow on Guild Wars 2, I think it's a great game for casual players because it focuses on exploration and story, and once you do hit max level, there's no increase to those levels, so you can go through all the content that you want to go through, as well as when you learn the combat, it's not really difficult and it doesn't put a huge amount of stress on you. So lastly, let's talk about Elder Scrolls Online. Just like the Final Fantasy series, the Elder Scrolls series has a rich history of an immersive RPG that's captured the interest of a lot of players. The Elder Scrolls Online holds true to those concepts, but also makes it a great experience to play with other players. Just like the other two games, the Elder Scrolls Online has a deep and rich story. You can tell that every single quest was meant to be read and looked at and thought about because there was so much effort put into them. The biggest difference, and I think the biggest appeal to casual players, is that everywhere you go scales to your level. Unlike Guild Wars 2, it scales upwards to your level. So that means that you can go anywhere. You can go into the super scary ghost looking magma filled zones and you'd be fine. You don't have to spend an insane amount of time leveling up to get to those areas. You can go there straight away and jump into those quests without a problem. Just like the questing, the dungeons are very similar. Once you hit level 15, you can do any dungeon in the game. So you can explore through whatever dungeon you think is cool, whatever you're interested in doing, you can do it. Due to the scaling, the level of difficulty in the content is perfect. It's not too easy where you're breezing through it without thinking, but it's also not like a Dark Souls boss where you're getting bonked on the head 24/7. And if it does get too difficult, you can always complete that quest with another group of players. However, most of the game can just be completed solo, so you don't even need a group if you don't have them. You'll also be happy to know that Elder Scrolls Online takes the same approach as Guild Wars 2 when it comes to expansion. It's a horizontal progression, so you don't have to worry about levels or trying to catch up to the content. If you take a long break from the game, you can always come back and try the new expansion without having to worry. I've even talked to people who have used the same gear set for years without it becoming outdated because they love that playstyle and it's still effective to this day. So the game really gives you the freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want. The only thing you can't really do without grinding is the PvP, so make sure that if you are looking to do PvP, understand that it is going to get a little more sweaty and might not be as casual friendly. So if you're a casual MMORPG player and you don't have a lot of time but you're still looking to get into some MMORPGs, these are some great options for you. Mainly because they respect your time while you're in the game. If you do leave the game for an extended period of time, you can come back and not feel extremely behind. And in general, the game's focused on having fun instead of that repetitive grind that some MMORPGs tote around. Not to say that the grind is bad, I'm a crack fiend, I actually love the grind, but for a casual player, probably not the best. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and leave a like on the video or subscribe if you really want to see some more content from me. I do stream on Twitch every once in a while, so you can catch me on Twitch TV/Astro. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.